I want to talk to you about something actually that we've alluded to, we've implied in this morning's session, and that's trust. What this shift to digital has enabled for every single person in this room is it has opened the digital storefronts that you all either run, own, support, enable, to a much broader audience, to the world, which is a phenomenal opportunity, which is a great thing for those micro-entrepreneurs looking to realize their dreams, that artist in Sao Paulo can sell a piece of art to someone living in Berlin. And the technologies that we're going to talk about and in the booths outside are a fundamental part of enabling it. However, if we as a collective don't focus on ensuring there is trust within that environment, I don't think the sustainability of that is guaranteed and assured. Whether that's the success so that that artist will get paid and can continue to follow her dreams, or the criminals can be stopped. And so what I want to spend a brief amount of time talking to you about isn't, you'll be glad to hear, a blowhard from MasterCard telling you what we do. There is a small element of that, and I hope you'll allow me to do it. But I want to spend a little bit of time on why do we do what we do. We speak about identity, we speak about trust, we understand authentication, we see SCA, we hear about PSD3, and it's like, okay, well, what is going on? And so I want to give you an insight that we've had for about 18 months in MasterCard. And we developed it, I engaged a group of people to truly understand, why does fraud happen? How are criminals doing what they're doing? We spoke about AI and the use of bad and for good. There we go. So what you see is this illicit supply chain of stolen synthetic identities, and it's actually ring-fenced. There's factories, there's raw materials, and there's distribution. And I'm going to show you how this works. And so where we get to is you start with stolen identities. A big part, so there's a public service announcement coming in 10 seconds. A large part of synthetic and stolen identity fraud is beginning with thefts. So, for those of you who keep your passports in your underwear drawer, please find a different place to put your passports. You will find, trust me, you will find that thieves, it's quite difficult to run out of a house with a 70-inch television without looking slightly suspicious with wires hanging off the back. It is really easy to walk out with passports, driver's licenses, social security cards, and they are, if anything, more valuable in the dark web than that television. So you start with thefts and burglaries. Where you then get to is data leaks. The left-hand side is raw data, you can imagine that. The right-hand side, this is actually lifted from the storefront of a dark web. This was a company that was subject to some ransomware. This company didn't pay the ransom. And as a result of not paying the ransom, for some bizarre reason, they were storing all of these selfies and ID pictures. And what the criminal hacker group did is they released and revealed that group. So we've shaded it out. But that's from a storefront. This is a company advertising their wares in ransomware. The left-hand side is just raw data available for sale. So if you've got genuine passport details, national insurance, if you've got the ability to take stolen, sometimes PII data, and you've got an ability to hack in, and for those companies foolish enough to store it, you're beginning to get this kind of raw ingredients. What do you do out of that? You produce documentation. And so on the left-hand side, again, these are videos, so these are promotional videos, storefronts. So you can see how these companies are advertising their capabilities in doing what they do. On the right-hand side, this is a company saying, hey, here, we manufacture to order. You send us in your picture, we will pick your picture on a fake driver's license. So that in and of itself looks slightly worrying for those of us in the room who are like, hey, there are times I depend on a physical document. What is more frightening, is over the last 18 months or so, the evolution in the quality of those documents. And so for a chip-enabled EU driver's license, it doesn't just look impressive. What you'll see is it actually is really impressive. So if it is actually tapped and analyzed, you're going to see it. The one on the right, Belgian passport, I'm putting it in the passport reader. Again, these are videos lifted from storefronts saying this is the quality of our merchandise, this is what we're able to do. You see the image from the passport appearing. You know, in the US, I'm based in our headquarters. In the US, you can't drink until you're 21. This used to be a dynamic with your kids where they would buy a fake driving license when they were about 17 or 18. They'd get it from China. It would cost about $100. Technology has advanced significantly. When my kids were that age, it was actually like, I think they lost 2. You now see the quality of work that the criminals are producing in the dark web. And this should begin to frighten us, that says, I can no longer rely simply on seeing a passport, maybe being able to read a passport, as the proof that I am who I say I am. You then go online, and that enables you to get into the financial services system. This, again, is a price list from the dark web. This is a buy and sell marketplace. If I'm looking for these accounts, I'm selling these accounts. This affects every single financial institution in Europe, every single financial institution in the world. That's a very important point. There is no bank that does not have accounts for sale that have been opened up, fully KYC'd, that are available for sale on the dark web today. No bank in the world. Every single one is available for sale. They are around. You'll see some of the prices here. This is one of the more expensive prices at 300 euros. We see most bank accounts at about 150 euros, 150 pounds for a new account. So they will ship you the plastics. They will ship you a device. They will ship you on the right-hand side. You see the actual hardware security token. So it's about 150 euros for a new account. It will still have the plastic that you have to activate. For one that they've aged for about 12 months, so they've transacted, it's gone through bank checks, it will actually cost you about 200 euros. So what I'm trying to tell you is you've got a fraud market, you've got a crime market of things that we all used to rely on as proof of trust. Proof that that person buying the art in Berlin is who they say they are, or proof that the artist in Sao Paulo is who she says she is and will deliver the goods. In a static environment of physical documents, static PII data, what I'm trying to tell you is actually that is no longer possible. And that's why we are beginning to see, or you are seeing, some of the dynamics that you've got right in front of you. So account takeover, not necessarily new. However, look at the growth in account takeover of 50% of businesses have seen this massive increase. That is the same as promotion abuse and refund abuse. There are some merchant categories that we're protecting with our behavioral biometrics, where we will see 40% of all accurate login attempts are fraudulent. 4 out of 10 login attempts in that category have the correct username and credentials. So if you're not understanding the behavior of the individual, you are leaving yourself open to someone coming in and getting access to that person's account. So account takeover always was. The refund abuse, the promotion abuse, a somewhat newer dynamic, but one that is dramatically becoming a significant problem. David touched on it, and I was thankfully did. A significant increase in first-party fraud. I kind of call this digital shoplifting, because I think that's what it is. I think it's you're going into a store, you're walking out with something, and then you're saying, well, no, that wasn't me, I didn't buy it, and I don't know how. And so that's what that is. And we are actually on a journey, and in the US, we've announced our program. It will become a global program for solving first-party fraud. And then you want to ensure every merchant storefront in the digital economy is one that consumers can trust. And when we're in a space where it's 1 in 6 consumers are saying that they've experienced a scam on a marketplace, TSB Bank in the UK announced a survey that on one large social media platform, a third of all marketplaces were fraudulent and were scams. This is how fraud has evolved in the landscape that we're trying to protect. People pretending to be who they aren't, people just abusing the system because they can't be seen for a promotional offer, for a refund, or just claiming they never made the good and service, and merchants who have zero intention to be a good merchant in good standing, setting themselves up in business. And so this is a rather fancy graphic to describe. I think this is how I see the fraud landscape for us in the room. That if we start on the right-hand side, it is all types of payment rails. If I take it away from the kind of the messaging format and say consumers want to be able to pay with a card, account to account. They want to be able to do P2P, whether it's open banking initiated, whether they want to pay with loyalty points, whether they will look to pay with digital currency. All of that is simply how they're looking to pay. What they're doing is there's an interaction and there's a transaction. And so, 10, 15 years ago, we could focus on the transaction and say, hey, if we secure that, I think we're going to be good. But now we've got the account takeover, you've got the beginning of the relationship fraud, you've got first party. And so as we see our landscape, as MasterCard is focused on how do we enable commerce, how do we secure commerce within identity, how do we inject trust into commerce, I wanted to share the landscape of what we are trying to solve for every day with the 1,000 people who work in our team in identity. So what are the 1,000 people kind of focused on doing? Well, it's focused on building trusted identities on the merchant side and on the consumer side. I really someone in the team came up with a summary of what we did. They'd been traveling for a couple of weeks and they'd spoken to a variety of players, whether fraud platforms, PSPs, and merchants. And they said what is clear when technology is used well, what you get within our ecosystem is you get good growth. You get sustainable growth within commerce, within merchant payments. And that struck with me, which is, yes, that's what we're aiming to do. Yes, we're focused on commerce, but we're raising the ceiling for growth by driving a greater level of trust. And so this is this is MasterCard Identity, how are we doing our things? We've built a network based on what we saw in the criminal marketplaces that allows us to understand specifically about an identity that is interacting, a merchant that's trying to become a merchant, a consumer trying to initiate a relationship, modify a relationship, a delivery address or otherwise, or make an interaction. Within our identity network, there are around 6 billion different identity data elements. Within those data elements, they are your dynamic PII, not your date of birth, not your national identity number. It's your email address, your phone number, your IP address, your mailing addresses that are associated with you. Those are incredibly difficult for a synthetic fraudster to use Chris Reid and establish a new email address so that I don't get a confirmation email telling me I bought something, or I now have a new bank account, or I now have a new loyalty program with Lufthansa. We have devices that we can trust, or that we can say, hey, that's been associated with known fraud, or that device is behaving in a way that it shouldn't. The operating is different, operating system is different to the actual hardware. Then where you get to is payment account behavior. So when I recognize it's a great benefit, when I can see a chargeback, or when I can see a fraud alert happening in almost real time from a consumer associated with an identity element, or on the positive side, when I can see zero risk behavior associated with those identity elements, I then have a level of comfort associated with that identity element. And the behavior is, as you can imagine, when I can prove. Think about that chart on the left. If I can prove that it isn't you, if I can prove you're one in the 4 in 10 using genuine credentials to log in, that's great. Actually, where we're pointing behavior is, think about the first party fraud, think about the promotion abuse. When I can prove that it is you, when I can say, no, like that was you who made that transaction. I describe behavioral biometrics as a little bit like going to a local coffee shop where if you go there at weekends and you go there every Saturday, they get to know you, they get to know your order. That's what behavioral biometrics is. No, it was you who walked into my store. You're the same person that walks in every Saturday, and I gave you your latte. So, like I saw you, you can't kind of come back and say, no, that wasn't me, and you took my money on the Sunday. And so what we're aiming to do with those 4 attributes of us as individuals, of us as merchants trying to get into a marketplace, is bringing that together in an identity engine, in our identity network, that allows us to do what we want to do, which is be able to provide trust that you are who you say you are, or you're not who you say you are. If we do that, then actually what we begin to understand about ourselves and about people trying to interact into your environment isn't just the footprint, isn't just, okay, who is Chris Reid, but it actually is, well, how does Chris Reid behave? Does he normally go in and does he normally order an item from New York and get it delivered to Scotland? Yes, because his mum happens to live in Scotland, and every now and again he's a good son and sends her some stuff. And so you begin to understand those patterns and put them together. And so within MasterCard Identity, what we're solving for is criminals that have never been more sophisticated, never been more nefarious. We're solving for all aspects of digital interactions, the creation of an account, the maintenance of an account, and money movement as it flows. So to David's point on Peak Card, might be, but that isn't actually going to have an impact on what we're solving for in MasterCard Identity, because whether you're going to do it on open banking, whether you're going to do it in account to account, the only way that payment rail, our term, not a consumer, the only way that payment rail is vibrant, the only way it drives utility is if it works and it's trusted. If people can be certain that when they move money, it will get to the right place and the purpose they move money will materialize, whether that's a good or a service or a healthcare appointment. And why are we doing that? And I want to leave you with this image. This is why in MasterCard we do what we do. I said to David, well, I don't know if it's about payments, I don't know if it's about commerce. We do what we do because this is our vision for commerce in a digital environment regardless, which is it's a local marketplace. It's a place that we feel familiar in, that we trust. And it's easy to trust an environment like this because this is probably the place that you go to quite regularly. But so is the digital lives that we have. We do go there regularly. We are injecting that same sense of familiarity, that same sense of you don't need to worry. Killian said it. I don't know if consumers really think about that. They just want to do what they do. Within MasterCard in general, and particularly within identity, our vision every day is figuring out, can we make the digital economy, can we make the digital world appear way more like your local marketplace and actually remove the online fraud market, mitigate everything they are trying to do for us in this room, which is just enable merchants to succeed in what they're looking to do. So thank you very much for that. I look forward to, as I said earlier, I really do look forward to meeting as many as you possible, understanding why you do what you do and how we can help you. Enjoy the next couple of days. Thanks, David.
Yeah.